What's up guys, welcome to the vlog. Poker hasn't really been working out, but we're gonna have one last go at it. The 25K high roller, I think it's gonna be a great field. Some people are busting the PSPC, some people are busting the $250,000 high roller, and I can't wait to play again. Cool, thanks a lot, buddy. Thanks, bye. Yes, I'm so excited. Let's see, what do we got? We got manual seats, okay. So we're not gonna have any, we don't know the seats yet, which is fine. I hope it's not the one seat again. I don't like being the one seat. Happened a few tournaments, but I'm excited. I can't wait to play. Holy shit, let's go. The green? Yep. Okay, thank you. Hey, good, how are you?
This is going to be a seat for you, this is going to be for me. Do you have the visa? Do you have the visa?
Yeah. Oh, it's not suit.
All right, so I just registered at 25K. It's the high roller. One of the first interesting hands that I come up with is right when we have starting stacks and I'm at a really tough table. I have I Need Masari at my table, Visa and Fish, Seiji Star, and some other crushers. It's 100-300 with a 300 ante. I raise Ace Queen of Hearts to 800 in the hijack. The small blind is Vicente Delgado, Visa and Fish online. He plays 10K tournaments, 20K cash games, 10K cash games, one of the absolute end bosses of online poker. You don't see people a whole lot that play high stakes cash games and tournaments at the same time, but he pulls it off. He makes it 4,300. At this point, I really don't want to 4-bet him because my hand plays really well versus his 3-betting range. If I 4-bet this deep, I can get myself into some trouble if I get 5-bet and I make ranges a little bit too narrow. I have position the rest of the way, so I decide to call. The flop is Jack 10-3 with the Jack 10 of hearts. This is a pretty good board for both of us. Obviously, he's gonna 3-bet a lot of Broadway cards like Ace Queen, Ace Jack, Jack 10, Jacks, 10s, but I have a lot of those similar cards. I don't think I'm gonna 4-bet pre-flop here with Jacks or 10s, so I do make a claim to the top set and middle set, which is really great. Obviously, in the current situation, I have Ace Queen of Hearts and a royal fucking flush draw, so I'm pretty happy. He checks to me. At this point, I really need to decide what hands I want to bet and what hands I want to check. I think it's really good for me to bet pretty polarized, meaning that I want to bet the hands that I'm happy with versus check raises, and I can also bet some bluffs, of course. But the perfect bluffs to pick here are flush draws because I can call check raises. It's a 3-bet pot and it's a board that's relatively good for him too, so when I do bet with hands with equity, I want to be able to call a check raise. Obviously, Ace Queen of Hearts falls into that category because I have the nut flush draw and a nut straight draw. Another added advantage is that an ace or a queen could actually give me the best hand, so that's really nice too. He decides to just call. We go to the turn. The turn is the ace of diamonds. I feel pretty ambiguous about this card because I do make top pair, which is really good, but of course some hands complete for him as well. He can have ace king, he can also have king queen or ace jack or ace 10. There's also of course a lot of hands that I do really well against here. He's still going to have kings, queens, king jack, queen jack, any of that stuff that he will also check call sometimes on the flop. I do want to have some bets here, and I think that this hand qualifies. I block a lot of his strongest two pairs, I block top set, and even if my hand's not good, I have a ton of outs to improve. One thing I need to really consider is the fact if he can check raise me off my hand here, because that would be awful. I don't really want to get shoved on here because that will make his range really strong, and because I have the hearts and the queen of hearts in my hand, that really goes towards like two pairs, sets and straights. But I don't think that he's going to check raise all in much because of his check check call on the flop, and now his check again on the turn. I bet 12,000 and he calls. Still pretty good. I still think that he's going to call with a lot of hands that I do really well against. He can have some lower flush draws even. And obviously I still have a lot of outs to the nuts if I'm not good already. The pot's now 40,000. I'm really sweating it and I really want a heart to hit. The river's an 8 of clubs though. Now this is interesting because now I really want to check. I don't think I can get value from anything that's worse than my hand. Let's say he has a hand like ace 9 of clubs, or let's say he has queen jack or queen 10 or kings or queens. I think at this point he's going to fold all of those hands, and betting I just make our ranges way too strong. I check it back and I lose the king queen of clubs. He turned a straight. Pretty salty about this because obviously I had the nut flush draw. I dominated him on the flop as well. So it's not a great start to the tournament, but luckily we still have a shitload of chips to play with. On to the next one.
Nice. All the judges.
Yeah. How goes it? Are you still in there?
No,
Oh.
Yeah.
You busted?
No,
Oh,
no.
no.
Big
Oh,
one.
that's
You
okay.
meant the big one, right?
Yeah.
An hour and a half, whatever, and
2 hours
last
ago
left,
you
last left. But,
That sucks.
Yeah,
Playing at
exactly.
25 now?
Yeah.
How's it going?
Okay. That one unlucky in one spot, and then did really well in small spots. So, but and I would start with 50, and I have like 36. I feel like in a way it's good for me too to experience that live, because I feel like one of the traps for me in the main event was to just think like I'm just gonna run this fucking guy over, and now I'm just like, this is the strategy. So if I feel like it pulls me towards what I know and how I should play anyway, right? So it's good. I feel like it's a really good experience. Every
As long
table.
as you don't over adjust too much, because you're the kind of.
Yeah, but to see
Sometimes you still have to run over someone, right?
Yeah, for sure. But it's good. It's good that it pulls me back towards the theoretical side.
Yeah.
Because now I'm just like,
discipline.
because like in the main event, I'm like, okay, I'll bet small here because I can get away with it, and then I bet small again because I'm like, okay, this guy's, and or then I go big, and now I'm just like, raise pre-flop, flop is ace queen 10, he's in the big blind, I'm under the gun, and then I continuation bet 2 times spot, you know? So it's like, that's the kind of stuff where I know, like, I know this is good to do sometimes, and I feel like it's just good, yeah. So we just moved to a new table, and the level is 200, 400 with a 400 ante. Everyone folds. I look down on queen 5 offsuit in a small blind. This is a hand you can definitely occasionally raise, as well as like king X offsuit with some medium-sized kickers. They make pretty good top pairs, and sometimes you just limp call or limp fold or limp raise them. So options are plenty, and this time I decide to make it 3.5 big blinds. The big blind now makes a mistake. He puts out a call, but instead of putting down 1400, he drops an extra 1000 in there, making it 2400. This constitutes as a raise. I think these are very interesting situations. I could make the guy raise, but I think that intention is very important. I don't think this is an angle shot. This guy is not trying to pull one over me. He made a pretty honest mistake, and I really feel that his intention was raising. I asked the dealer if it's binding, because I don't really care if he takes his 1000 back. Obviously this is a really good situation for me, because in general I get to play my hand perfect now. I get to call with all the things that play well post-flop, and I get to re-raise with all my bad hands to force him out to pot and get value with my good hands. So I'm waiting the dealer's answer, and the dealer says that the raise stands. So now I have a decision to make. Am I gonna call? Because at least I have to call because I get insane odds. Or am I gonna raise? I decide that I want to be really polarized in this spot. I want to raise my trash hands, and I want to raise with my good hands. Everything that plays well or is suited, I'm just gonna flat. I make it 8000. He thinks for a while and he calls. That's too bad. There's some doubt in my mind if I should have made it bigger, but I really think that a lot of the hands that he calls with pre-flop are going to involve hands like king 8 offsuit or a hand like 6-5 offsuit, and I don't think he's going to call that for the 8000. Flop is ace 4 deuce rainbow. Really good flop for me. Not only can I make a really good case for an ace, I also have a gut shot. If a 3 comes, I make a straight. I bet 4,000 into 16,000, and I can make a lot of his hands fold. Hands that have a lot of equity against me. If he has Jack 10 with a backdoor flush draw, I can get some instant folds, and it's huge for my hand. He calls, however. The turn is the queen of clubs. It's a rainbow board now. At this point, there's no point for me to bet. If he has anything that he's floating, like a hand like Jack 10 suited, or a hand like king high, at this point he'll fold. If I bet here, the only thing that I'll keep in the hand is a hand like ace X, or better, any kind of 2-pair hand. So it's a perfect card for me to check. Also my hand's pretty resilient. I beat a lot of his under pairs now. I beat every single 4 and deuce, and obviously I now beat king highs as well. The river is another 4. I think this is a pretty good card. I think it's not very tempting for somebody to bluff, because now a hand like ace 5 is just as good as a hand like ace jack because of the pair on board and the queen. I decide to check because there's nothing really to get value from, and I'm gonna have to consider bluff catching. I check, and my opponent goes all in. This is really fucked. Everything in me just says that he has an ace. It makes a lot of sense, right? After all the action so far, it definitely makes sense for him to have an ace. I think anything else with showdown value, if he has a pair of 6s, he's just gonna check it back on the river. Even a hand like king high is just gonna check on the river. If he calls my raise pre-flop and then calls a raise to 8000 after all that action, and calls a bet on the flop and now shows the river, I just think that he's gonna have an ace a lot of the time. I decide to fold my hand, not even using a time bank, and he shows me Jack 4 of hearts. He shows me because he feels bad what happened pre-flop and the fact that he got there on the river. So pretty salty hand for me because I was actually really good on the turn, didn't have many outs, plus it's not a hand that he's going to necessarily always call. But I think that one of the lessons I have in this hand is that I should have just really priced him out. I really should have taken advantage of the spot and go for something a little bit bigger, but I still think that my hand is a good hand to do it with. So shit happens. One of the weirdest hands I've played in a high roller, but we have to move on. So we're at the same table as the last hand. The button raises to 1000. It's still 200, 400 with a 400 ante. I have 6-5 suited in the big blind, clubs. It's really either or what I do here. I think calling is fine. I think re-raising once in a while with hands like this from the blinds is also very good. You don't just want to re-raise high cards from the big blind, and of course a suited connector is perfect to mix in. This time I decide to call though, and we see a flop of Jack 10-10 with 2 clubs, 1 heart. Perfect. I flop a flush draw. The board is paired of course, which is a little bit dangerous, but it's still a really good flop for me. I check. The button bets 900 into 2600. Pretty small, but he's going to bet this board a lot. A lot of the strong Broadway combinations I would have check raised before the flop, so he's going to have a better advantage with overpairs, Jack X and some draws. The one thing that I've got going for me is that I have a shitload of 10s. I would call any suited 10s as well as a bunch of off-suited 10s from the big blind in this situation. To try and prevent an awkward turn spot for me, I decide to check raise the flop. If I check call and he bets again on the turn, I might still have a pretty good draw with my flush draw, but it's only 6 high, and that puts you in some difficult situations on the river as well. To avoid all of this, I make it 3400. The button calls. The turn is the king of spades. Not a good turn for me. Because what I've mentioned earlier, he has an advantage in all the strong Broadway situations, and that means the king is a great card for him. He has all the kings, the king queen, the ace queen, the king jack, and some of the king 10s that I don't have. Even though it wasn't my plan on the flop, it's really important to be flexible on the turn, just because it's so good for him. I check. I don't really know what I want to do. It really depends on what my opponent does, and if he bets big or small or checks back obviously. The button bets 2700 into 9400. It's a pretty small bet. At this point, I really feel like I have the odds to call. If I make a flush, I have some implied chips that I can make, and also my 6 or 5 could be good, which is very important. He could have definitely floated my flop bet with some ace high hearts type of hand, or he could have a hand like 8-9 or 7-9 or some other busted straight draw. Against all of those hands, my 6 or 5 will be good. I call. The river's the 9 of clubs. Really good card for me obviously. Not only do I make my flush, it also introduces a lot of really good hands for him. If he was betting the turn with a queen, or if he has a hand like a mate straight already, I now beat him. I think this is a really interesting river because my hand's not nutted to block bet small. It's definitely a board that's in his advantage. He has most of the boats, he has most of the straights, he has a lot of flushes. I have some boats as well, of course, with the 10, I have trips, and I have some flushes as well. Of course, I'm also going to have some queen X, especially because of the small bet by him on the turn. I decide to bet 2000 into 14.8 thousand. I think block betting is really good here because I would want to do this with a hand like King X, maybe some Queen X even, especially with the flush getting there. It's also good to block bet when I have a hand like a flush like I do now, because it's going to elicit some bluffs. My opponent is a very good player. He's aware of the fact that he has everything strong on this board. By betting small, I might induce an all-in, and that can be very profitable. And a very important way to balance my block bets when I have jack shit, or a weak jack. He puts me all in for 16k. When I have a 6 high flush, obviously I would really want him to call over going all in, but I really think that the way the hand played out and the weakness that I showed on previous streets, as well as my block bet, really forces me to call here. I can start folding flushes in this spot when I have so many top pairs, trips and straights. Flushes just outrank all of those, and if I fold here I'm just going to be overfolding. Good players are aware of that and are going to put an insane amount of pressure. I call and I unfortunately lose to Jack 10 suited. He flopped a full house, my flush is no good, and that's the end of my last tournament here.
What happened?
Really fucked. Yeah, just annoying. Really annoying day, to be honest. I felt so good in so many small pots and like things that were happening, like medium-sized pots and stuff, and then just like 3 big key hands just happen the way they do. Just one sort of like unlucky run out, the second one a completely random shit hand, and then the third one just a setup. So what are you gonna do, you know? GG.
So that's it.
That's it.
It's a wrap.
Last tournament for me, I guess.
And that was the 25K today?
25K today. Decided I wanted to play today. I will say that today was a good experience for me, because I felt like now I played against only crushers.
Yeah.
And I feel like some of the mistakes.
the only way is up from here. He's tried against the best. He got destroyed. It can never be any worse than that.
Can never be any worse. I can't sink any lower than this. No, but I feel like the hands that I was unhappy with the most in the vlog, with the ace deuce versus white t-shirt guy, and some other hands where I felt like I was gonna make people fold, and that's a trap that I used to fall into.
Yeah.
And now that I was playing against the crushers, I stuck really to theory, and it just felt really it felt like a really good lesson. Like, this is what works, this is what you know. Like,
I think it's really, when obviously you've not played a lot of live poker, and I think it's really easy to sort of forget the lessons of, you know, that you're gonna have these bluffs here, these bets, or these value bets, and then when you get live, it's like, I'll just deviate. Like, I wouldn't normally do this, but like, I'm gonna just try and get this guy to fold. Like you're saying, it's nice that you then fell back into what you knew is right.
Yeah.
And like, say you feel more comfortable and playing like your solid strategies.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about like the vlogging experience overall?
I will say the funny thing is, because like, if you look at the trip itself, right? Like, poker-wise, I lost like 90K, right?
Not great.
Not great, not ideal. But the funny thing is like, I look back on a trip, sort of like a very fond memory, because it's like trying something new.
Yeah.
It's almost as if the poker is like its own vertical, and okay, the poker is great if it works out, but even if it doesn't, I was able to do something really fun.
Mm-hmm.
So actually, and it's very similar to streaming, right? Like, we share the pain and the nonsense and the good times and the bad times as well. And then I kind of feel like this was the same, but then for live poker, it just gave me another reason to sort of get out of bed and play.
Right, so it's like, even when the poker's going bad, at least you have your content, you have your interactions with people on breaks, and like the vlogs that you've been putting out, and everything alongside it. It doesn't feel as bad as just coming here and doing off 90K.
Yeah, and it just felt really nice too, just to talk to people and like run into you guys and sort of like show that, because it's all like, it really felt like a sort of the way we did it too. It really felt like a fly on the wall sort of thing, right?
Like, here's what it's like to be.
Yeah.
Here's what it's like to be at an event.
Like,
I
don't
just,
feel,
because it's not just playing on the tables, right?
Yeah.
It's this. It's hanging out. It's having a drink. It's dinner breaks. It's hanging out in the evenings. It's going to the water park. It's whatever it might be. I think from what I've seen of the vlog, you've really captured, you know, what it is to be here, not just what it is to play here.
I'm happy to hear that, because like, I feel like when we were just hanging out in Barcelona, I don't feel like I was any different now with the camera on us, you know?
Well, we're used to having cameras on us all the time. In fact, there's a camera on us right now.
Whoa, what?
This is two guys hanging out.
This is two guys hanging out on the porch with, you know.
Do you think like more live vlogging, more live play?
I think so.
Where are we headed next?
Yeah, I think that I'm gonna lock in EPT Paris. You know what? I feel like if it feels good, then you should just really go for it in that way, you know. Like, let's say you do the stream, like, I mean, you're a prime example, right? You started the stream with 0 viewers, but you started it.
But yeah,
you and your mom. Okay, sorry. So you start with 2 viewers, and then you're like, okay, I like this, and then the first part might be like a slow climb. And I'm not saying that I feel this way about the vlog or something, but I feel like if it feels natural and it's something that excites you, then you should really do it for a proper amount of time and see what it looks like.
Give it a shot. Yeah. Be ready to pursue it. I mean, if you'd have come here and didn't enjoy the vlog, then it was okay. Like, okay, we did that. It was for this trip. But, but you feel good about it. So
so I think end of the month, February, is going to be EPT Paris. So I'm going to vlog Paris, and then Barcelona, Cyprus, Prague. So I'm going to do all of them. Yeah, all of them.
Lex is Lex on tour.
Lex on tour.
I love that. I think.
Look at that.
That's the sort of excitement it's generating, even the fans. Steady on. We're all having fun. We're all excited. Well, yeah, I'll be there on those as well. So more beers, more cards, more vlogs.
Yeah,
it's great.
That'll be good. Hope you guys will watch.
Cheers. Please subscribe.